For those who have tracked Cleveland's turbulent quarterback saga since that draft night firestorm, tonight felt like the ultimate vindication. The fifth-round pick they scoffed at, the ownership decree they lambasted, the coaching staff's stubborn resistance they chronicled, all of it dissolved into irrelevance because Shedeur Sanders didn't just play well, he obliterated every doubt in a single resounding performance. The Browns crushed the Panthers 30-10, and from the moment the pregame warm-ups began, the stadium pulsed with electricity. Multiple eyewitnesses described an atmosphere unlike anything they'd seen for a debut, a restless anticipation that spoke to something far larger than a standard home opener. This wasn't merely a first regular season start, it was the climax of training camp drama, suspension whispers, and internal dysfunction. Yet, when Sanders emerged from the tunnel, there was no visible anxiety, no hint of weight from the moment. Just a razor-sharp, locked-in focus. Veterans shared knowing glances. They had seen the magic brewing in practice. Tonight was the unveiling, and make no mistake, going 14 for 23 only scratches the surface. This was not about statistics, but total command. Every throw carried intent. Every decision was calculated. Every audible felt like it had been rehearsed for months. Insiders say his pregame preparation eclipsed even veteran standards. Sanders had dissected Carolina's defensive disguises, decoded their rotation patterns, anticipated blitzes, and pinpointed soft spots to exploit. The original game plan: play it safe, rely on the run game. Sanders convinced the staff otherwise in the final walkthrough, and his confidence proved prophetic. The tone was set on the very first drive. First snap. Play action bootleg. The Panthers bit hard. Sanders rolled right, scanned the field like a surgeon, and fired a strike on a 15-yard crossing route. Roars erupted. Second snap, quick slant, exploiting a cornerback's over-aggressive stance for 8 more. Then the masterpiece, Carolina showed cover 2 before the snap. Sanders spotted the middle linebacker shading strong side, immediately killed the original call, shifted protection, motioned a receiver, took the snap, pump faked the corner route to bait the safety, and then unleashed a perfect 42-yard missile that split the coverage. The crowd detonated. 3 plays, 65 yards, statement delivered. Moments later, in the red zone on 3rd and goal, the Panthers sold out for a fade to the taller target. Sanders sold the look, pumped right, froze the secondary, then spun left to find his tight end sneaking across the formation. Bullet pass, window barely wider than the football. Touchdown, Cleveland. The stadium shook like it had been hit by an earthquake. Linemen lifted their rookie QB into the air, veterans who had endured years of chaos knowing they had just witnessed a turning point. In the locker room at halftime, sources described the atmosphere as almost spiritual. Players spoke openly about having seen something different tonight, not just a win, but a calculated dismantling. Sanders addressed the team unprompted. "We're just getting started. Stay hungry. Finish everything." A 22-year-old speaking with the authority of a decade-long pro. A defensive captain leaned to his position coach and whispered, "That's our franchise quarterback." No question anymore. The defining moment came in the third quarter. Up 17-7, the Panthers were clawing back, momentum teetering, the ghosts of Cleveland collapses looming. This is the point where previous quarterbacks had crumbled, where seasons had unraveled. Not tonight. Sanders engineered a surgical 12-play, 7-minute march, converting 3 critical third downs, mixing runs and passes with the precision of a chess master, and draining the clock. The drive ended with a field goal, but the statement was louder than any touchdown, a proof of maturity, patience, and a deep understanding that winning isn't just about highlight throws, but about control, leadership, and intelligence. By the midpoint of the third quarter, chants of QB1 rolled through the stands like thunder. By the fourth, the entire stadium, almost 70,000 strong, was in unison. The debate was dead. The controversy buried. The future crowned. Yes, Cleveland's defense deserves its due, suffocating Carolina with 4 sacks, 2 interceptions, and relentless pressure. But everyone in that building knew the truth. The catalyst for all of it wore number 14. When a quarterback exudes unwavering confidence, the ripple effect transforms the entire team. Defensive players pursue with relentless urgency, knowing the offense will produce. Special teams execute with surgical precision, fully aware that field position could decide the battle. Coaches call plays with fearless aggression, emboldened by the quarterback's proven capability. Everything in football is interconnected. And tonight, Sanders was the conductor of a flawless symphony. At first glance, the stat sheet appears modest. 14 completions on 23 attempts, 1 touchdown. But peel back the surface, and the performance reveals itself as elite. 0 interceptions despite Carolina's relentless defensive pressure. 0 sacks taken against a blitz-happy front. Multiple designed runs converted into critical first downs, a third down efficiency surpassing 60%, perfect execution inside the red zone, dominance in time of possession. These aren't fantasy football fluff numbers. These are the hallmarks of championship caliber quarterback play. Now to address the obvious, the Dillon Gabriel situation. The suspended third-round pick, sources say, watched the game from home. His camp reportedly processed the implications in stunned silence before allegedly initiating trade discussions within hours. The so-called competition ended without ever resuming. Ownership was vindicated. The coaching staff converted. The fan base united. Gabriel's time in Cleveland, for all intents and purposes, ended the moment Sanders took command. This is the brutal reality of professional football. Performance eclipses politics. Production silences debate. The social media explosion was unprecedented. Reports claim Twitter servers strained under the volume. Each highlight clip racked up millions of views within minutes. Analysts who once scoffed at Sanders reversed their positions on live broadcasts. Hot take pundits who ridiculed his draft position suddenly claimed they had always seen it coming. The narrative flipped in real time from controversial fifth-round reach to undisputed franchise savior, from ownership meddling to visionary foresight, from organizational dysfunction to competitive redemption. Inside the post-game locker room, the mood bordered on pandemonium. Players celebrated with an intensity far beyond a standard Week 1 win. This wasn't just about a score line, it was the emotional release after months of uncertainty, tension, and chaos. Resignation had been replaced with belief. Veterans addressed the team directly, emphasizing the moment's magnitude. One declared, "We just witnessed our future." Everyone bought in. Championship mindset starts now. Another added, "That's elite quarterback play, period. No qualifiers necessary." Jimmy Haslam's presence loomed large. The owner who insisted on drafting Sanders and creating friction and backlash suddenly looked prophetic. Sources say he entered the locker room beaming, not with the smugness of "I told you so," but with the satisfaction of total vindication. Witnesses claim Haslam embraced Sanders in a long emotional hug, whispering, "You proved everyone wrong, even people in this building. Never forget who believe first." Sanders' reply was as poised as his play. "This is just the beginning, Mr. Haslam. We're building something special." Kevin Stefanski's transformation was equally striking. The head coach who once favored Gabriel, who resisted ownership's push, now spoke like a man converted. Gone was the guarded diplomatic coach speak. His post-game press conference radiated sincerity. He played winning football tonight. His preparation, execution, leadership, everything you want in a franchise quarterback. We're fortunate to have him. When pressed on the so-called quarterback controversy, his answer was definitive. "There's no controversy. Sanders is our quarterback." Next question. General Manager Andrew Berry's vindication might be the most profound of all. Navigating the impossible tightrope between ownership's demands and football operations, his draft night decision, once questioned, is now lauded as masterstroke. Sources say Berry immediately began exploring a contract extension unheard of for a fifth-round rookie, aiming to secure Sanders long-term before his value skyrockets. It's shrewd business, a recognition of trajectory, and then there were the throws, the moments that separated Sanders from the average rookie. Second quarter, 3rd and 12. Carolina rushes 4, drops 7. The pocket tightens. Sanders slides left, eyes locked downfield. Defenders closing in. With a flick of the wrist, he fires a sidearm bullet through a microscopic gap between 3 defenders. First down. The crowd erupts. Teammates stare in disbelief. Coaches nod knowingly. That's not rookie execution. That's veteran mastery. Late in the 3rd quarter, 2nd and long, Carolina disguises pressure, bringing a safety down late. Sanders spots it instantly. He processes everything in real time, like every shift, every disguise, every weakness, and exploits it without hesitation. Panthers defensive coordinator was overheard telling his assistants, "We can't rattle him. He's seeing it all." Pre-snap, his command presence transcends mere mechanics. Multiple offensive linemen describe Sanders' huddle presence as transformational, calm but urgent, confident without arrogance, demanding yet encouraging. One veteran guard admitted, "He makes you want to block forever. You don't want to let him down." These are the intangibles that separate serviceable quarterbacks from generational cornerstones. Leadership isn't taught. It's either in you or it's not. And Sanders has it in abundance. The receiving corps felt it too. Amari Cooper, a battle-tested veteran who has caught passes from multiple Pro Bowlers, reportedly pulled Sanders aside post-game. His words were simple. "You're special. I played with the best, but you're different. Stay humble. Stay hungry. This league needs you." The bond with David Njoku was equally telling. Once criticized for inconsistency, the tight end became a focal point. Targeted 6 times, catching 5. Their chemistry was undeniable. Post-game, Njoku wore Sanders' jersey during interviews, a silent, powerful endorsement, and then there was the crowd. Cleveland fans, scarred by decades of quarterback heartbreak, recognized the gravity instantly. This wasn't cautious optimism. This was full emotional investment. Every completion brought thunderous cheers. Every first down drew wild applause. Every appearance on the Jumbotron ignited standing ovations. By the end, the stadium pulsed with QB1, QB1, chants that spilled into concourses, parking lots, and surrounding neighborhoods. The city didn't just need this, it deserved it. The media's transformation was just as dramatic. National voices who mocked the pick, trashed the ownership, and forecast disaster reversed course overnight. Skip Bayless tweeted, "Shedeur Sanders is that dude. Cleveland found their franchise." Stephen A. Smith declared, "I was wrong. Haslam was right. This young man is special." Colin Cowherd began lining up segments comparing Sanders to established NFL stars. The storyline flipped entirely, from dysfunction to destiny, from controversy to clarity. Even the defense's buy-in became crystal clear. Myles Garrett, a defensive cornerstone and future Hall of Famer who rarely comments on offensive players, didn't hold back. He gives us a chance every game. That's all we need, knowing the offense won't waste our work. He's our quarterback, our leader. Our future endorsements like that from locker room alphas solidify legitimacy. Behind the scenes, the habits matched the hype. Equipment staff noted he was the first to arrive, last to leave, even after a dominant win. Film study began immediately for the next opponent. Recovery protocols were followed to the letter. Nutrition stayed locked in. Sleep schedule remained protected. This is the difference between a one-night sensation and sustained excellence. A rookie in title only. From Carolina's perspective, this was a humbling. They came in confident, with a top-tier defensive ranking and a sophisticated game plan. None of it mattered. Defensive coordinator Brian Flores, a known master of complex schemes, looked rattled. His post-game comments were blunt. Credit Cleveland. Their quarterback played exceptional football. He made the right reads, delivered accurate throws, managed the game brilliantly. We had no answers. When your opponent admits domination, legitimacy is cemented. Inside the Browns building, ownership dynamics shifted instantly. Jimmy Haslam, once criticized for meddling, for creating instability, stood completely vindicated. Sources say he addressed the front office post-game with a clear directive: build around him. Whatever he needs, weapons, protection, support, cost doesn't matter. Our championship window is opening. That level of commitment can change the trajectory of a franchise. The ripple effects will be massive. Division rivals will recalibrate their defensive strategies. Offensive coordinators will craft schemes tailored to Sanders' strengths. Personnel departments will search for complementary pieces. Marketing will turn him into the face of the franchise. Ticket sales will surge. Jerseys will sell out. Primetime games will multiply. But beyond the business, something deeper is happening. Cleveland's identity is shifting. The factory of sadness is showing signs of becoming a factory of championships. These transformations require a catalyst, and Sanders is that catalyst. One game doesn't guarantee everything, but sometimes one game reveals everything. Tonight revealed Cleveland's future, and it's blindingly bright. Training camp drama already feels like ancient history. The Gabriel suspension, the front office turbulence, the relentless media scrutiny, all of it evaporated under the weight of performance. Sanders didn't just win a football game, he unified a fractured franchise, ignited a weary fan base, and flipped the entire narrative. His 14 for 23 passing line with a single touchdown barely begins to tell the story. This was not a stat line. This was a declaration, a warning shot to the rest of the NFL. Cleveland has found its franchise quarterback. The fourth quarter served as the coronation. With the Browns already in command at 27-7, a field goal stretched the margin to 30-7. The game was over, but Sanders delivered one final exclamation point in spirit, not because it was needed, but because that's what franchise quarterbacks do. The post-game tunnel was a blur of emotion. Players hugged coaches. The front office felt vindicated. Ownership stood validated. And at the center of it all stood Sanders, calm amid chaos, focused in the midst of celebration, already looking ahead. The next opponent, the next challenge, the next opportunity to prove that tonight wasn't an anomaly, but the foundation for something enduring. Champions are defined by consistency, and Sanders understands the assignment completely. At the podium, he was every bit as composed as he had been in the pocket, poised, articulate, humble, yet assured. He credited teammates at every turn, praised his coaches, respected his opponents, and never once addressed the controversy or the doubters. We're 1-0, that's it. Long season ahead, plenty to improve. Back to work tomorrow. Perfect messaging, veteran presence in a rookie body, franchise cornerstone confirmed. The Deion Sanders factor was impossible to miss. The preparation, the swagger, the composure, all trademarks of a lifetime spent under Coach Prime's tutelage. While Deion kept silent publicly, sources say he was privately emotional watching from Colorado. His son had reached this stage despite injuries, criticism, and impossible expectations. One family source described their post-game phone call simply, "Proud isn't enough." This validates every sacrifice, every lesson, every moment. This is legacy. To understand the magnitude, you have to understand Cleveland's history. 27 different starting quarterbacks since 1999, seasons defined by heartbreak, careers derailed by dysfunction. Tonight, all of that ended. The search concluded. The answer arrived. Walken wearing number 2, drafted in the 5th round, now standing as the face of the franchise. Ownership interference now reads as visionary foresight. Organizational chaos fades into memory. Tomorrow, the grind resumes. Film study begins. Practice preparation kicks in. Weaknesses will be addressed because excellence demands discipline, and Sanders gets it. But for tonight, Cleveland could exhale. Decades of frustration spilled into the streets. Hope returned. The chant, QB1, QB1, rolled through the city not as a question, but as a declaration. The statement game had been delivered. The legend had begun. Analysts will pore over the tape. Critics will search for flaws. Skeptics will demand a bigger sample size. Let them talk. Inside the building, there are no more doubts. Coaches believe. Players believe. The front office believes. Ownership believes. And most importantly, the fans believe. That belief, fused with Sanders' rare talent, is a dangerous combination. The AFC North has been warned. The NFL has been put on notice. This wasn't just a win, it was a revelation. Cleveland didn't simply beat Carolina 31-0. They announced their arrival. Sanders carried them there, delivering when it mattered most, validating those who believed and silencing those who didn't. The Browns' endless quarterback search ended spectacularly. The future has arrived wearing number 2, and this is only the beginning. But for Shedeur, the road ahead still feels uphill, not because of defenders, but because of the system. Even in Deion Sanders' absence, his shadow looms heavy. That's the tightrope Shedeur walks every day. He can go perfect in joint practice. He can lead scoring drives. He can outplay the depth chart. And yet there's a strange resistance, a quiet organizational hesitation, not from his teammates, not from the fans, but from the league itself, still unsure how to handle prime time's air. When head coach Kevin Stefanski told reporters this week that Shedeur's arm soreness was behind him, we're past that. The translation was clear. Shedeur is healthy, ready, cleared for action. So why does it still feel like he's being restrained? He's received the fewest reps of any quarterback on the roster. He hasn't thrown a single pick. He's demonstrated calmness, composure, and elite field IQ, and yet he waits. And let's be real, we all know what would happen if Deion walked into camp tomorrow. Cameras, chaos, clickbait, excuses. That's why Shedeur told his own father to stay away, not out of disrespect, but out of necessity, because he knows the second Prime shows up, the circus begins, and the excuses follow. The Browns would have yet another excuse to frame Shedeur Sanders as a distraction, another justification to confine him to backup duties, another subtle way to claim he's not ready, without ever saying the quiet part out loud, because the Deion effect is real. And it runs deeper than celebrity. It cuts into legacy, race, and the NFL's ingrained power structures that grow uncomfortable when the spotlight shifts to someone they didn't handpick to be a star. And once Deion's name fades from the headlines, the real battle begins for Shedeur. He's surrounded by a carousel of quarterbacks on Cleveland's roster, most of them inconsistent, some injured, a few unproven, and yet it's Shedeur who continues to be buried on the depth chart, even after out-decisioning Dylan Gabriel, even after displaying more poise and control than Kenny Pickett, even after delivering flawless turnover-free reps every time he takes the field, he's still overlooked. This isn't about performance anymore. This is about narrative control. Shedeur Sanders was never supposed to be part of this room, and the system reminds him of that every single day. So we have to ask the hard question, is Cleveland sabotaging Shedeur Sanders? In the middle of all the noise, the media narratives, the rep manipulation, and the quarterback politics, came a moment on the practice field that cut through the chaos like lightning. Brotherhood. Shedeur Sanders and Jimmy Horn Jr. shared an NFL field once again. Two young men once dismissed, doubted, and discarded, now standing on opposite sidelines with the same fire in their chests. And Jimmy, he didn't just play well, he electrified practice. He torched the Browns' second-team defense with the same breakneck speed and fearless energy that made him Shedeur's favorite target at Colorado. Scoring wasn't the story. His fluidity, his effortlessness, his hunger, that was the headline. Different uniforms, same connection. And while Shedeur wasn't slinging deep balls to Jimmy this time, the bond between them was still alive, visible in every exchanged glance. Later, Shedeur told ESPN, "Jimmy definitely is missed. I miss seeing the smile at practice with his gold grill." That wasn't just nostalgia. It was the sound of a quarterback remembering what true chemistry feels like. The NFL split them on draft day, but fate reunited them, if only for a practice. In that moment, they weren't late round gambles. They were stars in the making, daring to defy the labels placed on them. But the league doesn't run on sentiment. And Shedeur still has one more mountain to climb, the media machine that refuses to acknowledge the truth playing out in front of them. What they won't tell you is this: Shedeur Sanders is quietly becoming the most efficient quarterback in Cleveland. He's shown flawless ball security, field command under pressure, composure that rivals veterans, a poise that can't be taught. And yet, the national spotlight avoids him. Why? Because Shedeur's rise doesn't fit the NFL's tidy narrative. Flacco, the seasoned vet, easy to sell. Pickett, the former first rounder, instant comeback story. Gabriel, drafted earlier, a front office investment they're eager to validate. Huntley, the dependable low-risk backup. Thank you guys. See you next video.